Everyone's kerfuffling.
I just want to point out, I think it's a really, really clean interface, a clean layout. You know, the process is obvious there, the inventory, clean end date, checkout, meter readings, deductions and refunds. And what I particularly like is that anybody who's a new starter in property management or experienced in property management will look at this and they'll just get it with almost no training.
When it's designed also to solve a real life problem.
Yeah.
It's always designed by an agent and they understand the milestones and the touch points and the pain points, which is why, like Paul says, the dashboard, it's fairly basic, it's fairly simple, but it does exactly what you need it to do.
No clutter, is there?
No.
I've set up a demo tenancy. The checkout's been booked, the clean's been booked, and we're on the day of the checkout, right? So obviously, as you guys know, normally you'd wait for the report to come in from No Letting Go. You'd then upload it, input your meter readings, read through the report, input the deductions, yada, yada, yada. Okay?
So that's
Now
quite a
I'm
long
gonna show you what
process,
it
that,
was.
isn't it?
So
That's quite a long process. I mean, Christian made that sound pretty quick, but in terms of, you know, a member of staff doing that, for every move out, there's a good hour and a half worth of work there, isn't there?
you're quite right. He whistles through that, doesn't he? But it doesn't do justice to the amount of. Isn't that one of the main reasons that we think you know, Christian has really nailed this, because it is part of the process, the tenancy process that is bloody difficult, isn't it? So isn't it unsurprising that, for example, the CRMs have steered away from this difficult area?
It's very easy to talk about them. It's harder doing them, isn't it? You need to get various different bits of information from different suppliers often. And that's why I like this integration, because you haven't got to go chasing, you know, an independent inventory clerk for that checkout report to then upload all of that data, like meter readings and onto your CRM,
Yeah.
to then relay them back to landlord and tenant. So yeah, he makes a difficult process sound easier than it is.
Okay, so this is the system that your clerks at No Letting Go use. And I've already done a report in here. So just to show you what's in the report. So we've put in meter readings for gas, electricity and water with some dummy readings and reference numbers and photos of those meter readings. And then I've put in 2 dilapidations. So in the kitchen, I've put a dirty oven dilapidation in there. And in the garden, there's an overgrown garden dilapidation. Okay, so that's all ready and done and ready to go. So when that report is completed and ready to send to you, they will just click upload to library. So yeah, when you guys click upload to library, what that now does, so if I come back to the tenancy and I now refresh the tenancy, so can you see this now says review the deposit deductions imported from No Letting Go? Yeah. I'm just going to walk you through. So I'm just going to show you. We're going to take it back to checkout. So it's verified the checkout's taken place. It's captured the checkout report in the system. So that's already been pulled through into our system. If we go into meter readings, it's pulled in all the meter reading data. So the date of the reading itself, the reference and photos, whatever's there is pulled into the system. Okay, and if we now go to deductions, we're going to review deductions.
Do you want to pause it?
Those 2 issues.
Yep.
So that's probably about 19 of those 21 steps, Richard, that you spoke about there.
It exports all of the data you need from the inventory into the facts which allow you to make the decisions. So the problem with tenancy disputes and so on, in my opinion, is often it comes down to emotion. If you've had a difficult tenant or a difficult landlord, your decisions are swayed based on an emotion. And what this does is, yes, obviously it doesn't give you a final decision, but it is taking fact from a document which is often independent, but could be somebody within your business who doesn't have that emotional relationship with a landlord or tenant. So it removes, because ultimately all that does is causes you problems further down the line. If you put your report, your inventory, what I call it, your inventory make on there, then you do your interim inspections throughout the tenancy, and then you do your checkout report, it is picking up a journey, and it is, you know, it is understanding what's happened and what's caused those issues or dilapidations.
Previous screen where you had the kind of banner in the middle that just tees everything else up there. I always judge, obviously being simple Simon as I am, you know, whether within 5 minutes you can find yourself kind of around the package, and it's very clear, isn't it, to get yourself into this application.
You can obviously reference contract clauses, so you might say like our garden maintenance clause is F6. Okay, and then you're gonna sign off on that one.
Does that pull through the picture as well at the same time?
Yeah, pull through any picture evidence, any description in the report. It is all pulled through into here. So
Do you want to press
you
pause?
guys should never have to read.
Just also to pick up on that, I noticed he's got an icon there for upload photo. So if the before photo wasn't being pulled through, it's just so easy to add it.
Okay. When you guys are creating the reports, so let me just jump back into this. If we go
Love that
to-
reaction.
just because I didn't realize you guys do it in house, so I'll just quickly. So when you're in here, when you're adding a dilapidation, okay, if I just click add dilapidation, so you put in the description, you assign a category, you assign whatever. The one thing you have to do, it has to be assigned as tenant responsibility. Okay? That's the only thing you have to be aware of. Even if you're not sure, set it to tenant, because you can pull it into the system and you can then make a decision before you send it to the landlord. Or you can leave that decision up.
Yep.
That's hardly a deal breaker, is it? Having to remember to do one thing.
No, but do you know, like, I know we're not talking about this element here, but again, going back to the fact that he's an agent, is there I say, you know, he's going out of his way just to highlight the realities of using it, isn't he?
Yeah. No, I think that's great. You know, set one parameter on a dilapidation on a report, and the process just works.
But you have to make sure the responsibility is assigned as tenant. Yeah. As long as it is, anything assigned as tenant responsibility will be pulled into our platform. And you guys can add evidence. So let's say you've got an invoice for that. You can say, oh, I mean, it's a mirror receipt, but let's say, oh, there's the receipt of the clean, and G7 is the clause relevant to cleaning stuff.
Can you?
So there you go. So there's
yeah. Go on, Mitch.
What that inadvertently does is stops 7 or 8 conversations of an argument with either the landlord or the tenant, because you've proved there's picture evidence, but also you've uploaded a cost. So the ability to just be able to upload that invoice or upload that quote, you know, it's not up for dispute. The oven, here we go. The oven was clean when you moved in. The oven's dirty now you've moved out, and this is how much it's going to cost to put it back to the condition it was in.
Really good point. Yeah.
Seems really minor, but actually creates a lot of work for property managers.
If you guys have rent arrears, you can still add to this. So you can still go add deduction, rent, you know, you can add other stuff to it. Okay. But otherwise, you know, once you're happy with that, you just go through, and then from there it carries on exactly how you work. So you send that off to the landlord, or you skip landlord approval, and it goes on to the tenant.
Yay.
So let me stop presenting.
Christian, have you ever been called Jesus or God before by anyone?
I'm working on it.
He's a Viking. He's not Jesus or God. He's a Viking.
Yeah, we kick God's ass. It's a very cool one, this one. So I actually thought it would take us a lot longer to get to this with the inventory guys, but yeah, I mean, we've done no letting go, and we've also done one with inventory base and inventory hire.
For me, and I know I look at slightly different things to you, but the reaction of the clients there, isn't it? I mean, that's why he will have been doing it. First of all, I know for a fact that Christian created the depository based about, he had an annual process where he sat down with the team and said, what's the bit that's really causing us problems at the moment? He looked at the marketplace. There wasn't anything out there that actually delivered on that basis. And so that was where the start of the journey happened. And what's fascinating, and he must get a buzz from it every single time he sees this, is presenting back that solution to an everyday problem is fantastic, isn't it?
Dependent on the size of the properties, those inventory and checkout reports can often be a 30-page document.
Yeah.
If your solution is that you're going to send it to the landlord, now whether that be via email or post, and send it to the tenant with a suggested dilapidations, you're either spending a lot of time highlighting what the dilapidations are for, where they're mentioned on the check-in, where they're mentioned on the checkout or the inventory, and trying to point somebody in the direction. Ultimately, they tend to phone you, and they'll phone you to challenge you. What that does is it just pulls out all of the fluff in the report and sends somebody, this was a condition, this is what your bill is, you need to pay it. And similarly to the landlord, you know, this is all the dilapidations we've come up with. You know, they're now not going through a 30-page document trying to find issues.
Yeah. But how would we go about estimating literally the time saving, you know, element from this? Do you have any idea in your own mind? I know you were talking about before taking a stab at it. What do you think this would deliver for somebody?
Staff happiness. So we saw their response. So we saw a response. I think we can all agree that that property management role is a pretty unrewarding role because you're stuck in the middle. You've got landlords who believe their property is, or you've often got landlords who believe their property is something it's possibly not, and they don't want to spend money on it. You've got tenants who believe the property is the worst thing ever and they want you to spend money on it. And as a property manager, you're stuck in the middle. You've got a landlord at one angle, you've got a tenant coming in at the others. So it's not a rewarding job. I can't recall in 24 years how many times whenever I've dealt with it, somebody's actually gone, you did a great job, Rich, thank you, coming from either side. Yeah. So for the staff, putting that into your business removes, I think that over time, and I'm not sure how you measure it, it improves staff retention because you're removing one crappy bit of a job, which allows them to get on with the more enjoyable stuff the rest of the time. It removes an element of risk because if the landlord and the tenant are agreeing electronically, you've got proof. And therefore, when you end up sending the deposit back, whoever it may be, and the landlord says, I've walked into the house now, I don't agree with it, I never signed off on anything, blah, blah, blah. Actually, yes, you did. You're being transparent, but from what I could see, you're also getting sign-off. So you're getting confirmation from both sides that they are agreeing. Potentially removes the requirement of other pieces of tech for electronic signature to get approval. If a tenant has, you know, if it's a house share and you've got 3 tenants who are all responsible, that process, you've often got to do 3 times, especially around student lets and everything else. So, you know, if you've got a property with 3 tenants in there, you've got to have that whole dispute conversation 3 times.
You know, if you've got your own maintenance division and you're able to make an extra little bit of income from that, then this, I think, just speeds up that whole process there as well. You know, in terms of getting your guys out to do that maintenance, do those repairs. If you have your own cleaning company, getting the cleaning company out and in, and it just reduces any friction around billing.
My only critique, and I absolutely understand for Christian, it would have been a commercial decision, is a frustration around it only being with the TDS. And that's not suggesting there's anything wrong with the TDS, but there are a number of suppliers. Deposit protection is one of those points where, you know, the cost is much of a muchness. So I think that, you know, an inertia for him is creating enough value that agents are prepared to do all of that administrative task around transferring their deposits from their existing supplier to the TDS. That would be my only frustration as an agent.
My understanding is that there was a period of time where they had to have exclusivity with the TDS. And I think they're adding those in with the, as you said, there are other providers.
And commercially, I completely understand why he does it. And actually, it's that test and learn stage, isn't it? It's just, you know, being completely neutral on it. Not because of poor service or anything. I personally didn't use TDS because, you know, you inherit a business who have all of their deposits protected somewhere else, and there's not enough benefit in it to go over changing all over. So for me, I would have to have given it serious consideration, weighing up the benefits against the original work. Christian will argue that the time saved for your property managers over the next 12, 24, 48 months is going to far outweigh that. But that would be the only reason an agent may not use it, in my opinion, would be getting over the inertia of the TDS.
If you didn't have the depository, but you're on TDS and then you went to the depository, how many properties under management do you think you'd need to have in order to save enough time to lose a member of staff? Talking 1,000? You're talking 500?
Yeah, and I question whether you would use a save to get rid of a staff or deliver a wow experience from the moment a tenant moves in to the tenant moves out, which then reduces the challenging conversation at the point of a
I
tenant.
agree.
Thing. How many extra? It depends. It depends where you are, Paul. You know, if you're in a part of the country and you are managing student lets or bed sits, the amount of touch points required with a tenant will far outweigh if you are in prime central London managing, you know, corporate lets where the tenants flies in on a Sunday night and flies home on a Thursday night. My understanding is that generally tenants will report 4 maintenance issues a year. You've then got renewals, you've then got a load of other stuff which happens, but ultimately 4 maintenance issues a year on average. How many extra properties could you manage a year? Look, based on back of a cigarette packet math, if an agent has 4 to 6 maintenance inquiries, and let's say they each take an hour, 4 to 6, a wild guess, maybe 50.
Okay.
And again, just to caveat that, so I can never get this wrong, is it depends on how a business is set up, isn't it? If you've got your business where your property managers deal with maintenance, and you've got renewal people dealing with renewals, and you've got checkouts and so on, it's different. If you've got a property manager who does cradle to grave from the day the tenant moves in to the day the deposit is returned and the tenancy's terminated, stab in the dark, 50 properties.
If I turn that around and taking a Simon's red rum blinkered approach to caveats, if I've got a property manager who takes on average 6 hours for a move out, let's say they can do 2 a day for luck, then having this software should take them from, say, 2 a day to 1 an hour or 6 a day. And therefore, if you've got a team of 3, you could choose to reduce it to a team of 1 and put 2 elsewhere, or reduce a team of 1 and keep 1 doing other stuff and lose 1. So the ROI is almost like, you know,
you're trying to get a soundbite from me to say you can half your property managers, aren't you? So my firm belief was that a property manager couldn't really manage more than 150 properties going from cradle to grave in order to deliver a wow service. You know, there will be really, really good lettings business in different markets where the property managers manage 400 properties. And that's not to say my way's best or their way's best, but I don't think but I think the point is, undoubtedly, dependent on your business, it saves you time.
This conversation, for people who'll be thinking like that, will give them enough of a steer to formulate an ROI in their head.
So the key element is, as long as you know theoretically that it is going to deliver on something, actually, this is our challenge back to those people who do start it. Please do give us that feedback. All we know is that there is going to be a quantifiable benefit. Well, look, guys, thank you very much. I think that's a lovely little Proptech 3 Men and a Proptech Baby again review there. Again, please take any of those promises Rich has made back to him and throw them in his face if they don't. And yes, once again, I think it's actually just hats off again to the guys for doing a really useful bit of integration, isn't it? Keep this sort of stuff coming. This is ultimately what agents of all types want to see.
Everyone's kerfuffling.